Welcome to Coffee with the Sarlos. We are your hosts of the show, Karen and Kelly Sarlo. Whether you're struggling with grief or you just need answers, we connect you with spirit to find relief, clarity, and direction in life. We can help you move forward.
Kelly, we're in the Christmas show. This is it. And I have to deliver with a heartwarming show. We know that. And there's a little bit of pressure on me.
Yes.
Because I really shit the bed at the beginning of the month. I got to say that this particular show reflects some of the sessions that I had all year, where I noticed this year that I had more group sessions. And so we have a story, again, about a group of people that ask for channeling in a session. So this is about a group of women who are over Zoom, and they're just at their own locations, when whatever homes or office environments or wherever they want to be. And at the very beginning, they ask for a woman, and I'm going to call her Zuri. That's a made-up name. Everybody knows we make up the names to keep confidentiality. So when Zuri comes in for this group of women, she comes in and she goes, "Oh, I'm here too." And she does this head shake, shoulder shake, boob shake.
Shimmy.
Oh,
There's a name for that.
yes. There's a proper name for that. She does like a body shimmy, or like from the top part. And I felt this come right through me. And I notice that I'm doing this little shimmy and I'm going, "I'm here too." And giggling and like really high fun energy. And as soon as I did that, all of the women had a reaction that was so lovely. And one of the women said to me, "Karen, we have to let you in on this. This is how Zuri always greeted us when we got together for any kind of event." And we were joking before the session even started that we wondered if Zuri was actually going to come through with you and do the shimmy shake, because it would be so her and it would be such a gorgeous validation. And it was sort of like a fingers crossed moment. But we didn't know if we could really expect something like that. So is it ever fun to see that like she came through you? She says, "So like we're thrilled right off the bat." And I said, "Well, she really does have like quite a bit of like exuberance, right?" And they said, for the most part, and at a particular time in her life, yes. So I said, "Zuri, what are they talking about?" And she said, "Oh, well, you're describing my personality. But before I passed, I got sick." So she says, "So once I was in my sickness, when I hit a certain part in it," she said, "I just did not have that in me anymore." So that's what they mean by at a certain time in my life and then not. And I said, "So you didn't die like in a car accident or an aneurysm?" And she goes, "No, it took time." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you want to talk about that first?" And she goes, "No, I don't." She says, "I want to talk about this group of women." She says, "I want to talk about what the hell they meant to me in my life." She says, "And I want to talk about who's in the group of women." And I said, "What do you mean, who?" And she goes, "Well, we call ourselves, quote, the family." Like this. And I said, "Oh, so like, are these all your sisters and cousins and aunts and all of that?" "No." She said, "The family is this group of people, and it's not all of them because they're married and there's kids, but," she said, "the core group are neighbors. And we were neighbors as kids."
Oh, that's cute.
And she says, "So what happened in life is that we grew up in the same neighborhood. We called ourselves the family as kids with our parents." And she says, "And we all went off to universities, colleges, just some of us just got jobs or whatever." And she says, "And then we ended up back in the same town." And she says, "And then we got back together as friends. And one person would bring in a couple of the friends in that group that they still connected with, or they heard somebody else was moving back to town, and we would reach out. And so we recreated the family." And she says, "So we've continued and the family has grown." And she says, "The only person in this group that is actually my biological family is my sister." And then I said, "Oh, I can tell them that." And she goes, "Listen for a minute. Kelly, you know when you hear a name coming in and you don't get the whole name sometimes?" So I got a K at the beginning and I got an E at the end. So I said, "Is it Carrie? Is it Kelly?" And you know when you're thinking, "Oh God, what name is it? Because I can't get the in-between part. I still couldn't get it. So I just wrote down K or C and then E. So I said to the group of people, the group of women present, I said, okay, I said, so this is who you are and how you came together. This is what Zuri's telling me. And I said, one of you has a name, and I think it's one of you, where it starts with a K or a C and it ends with an E or a Y.
Did you not see it on Zoom names?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Are you supposed to be able to no matter what? Like I did not.
Okay.
And it didn't have, like some of them would have like a male name underneath it, but I had a woman sitting there.
Signed into like the other person's account.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, no, I didn't. So anyway, I just said, hey, this is what I'm being told. And then this one woman says to me, it's me. She says, I'm her sister. I'm Carrie. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, that's good enough for me. She says, you didn't have to get the whole name. I'm thrilled with it. You got the first and the last, and you got the sound and everything. She says, I'm good with that. She goes, just keep going. She says, we're happy to hear from Zuri, as you are, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. This group of women, she says, I want to talk about in a variety of ways today. She says, so number one, she says, my sister is a therapist. And she says, my sister is really the mom of the group because she's the one that educates us, but never gives us advice. She refuses to give advice because she says we're going to shoot the messenger. And she wants to stay in the family. So she has a rule around, I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to give advice to you, but I absolutely could educate you and just tell you what it is and give you some options or explain a term to define what you're going through. And she says, Carrie has done this for every single one of us, including our partners, including our kids. And she goes, and as a result, she says, this entire group of people have grown to be better communicators, better checker-inners, better listeners. And she says, and it's even affected this group of people in that we got promoted because we had better skills to be able to communicate. So we were seen as better leaders in our jobs. And when we had problems with our jobs, and as friends, you come to Friday night pizza and you talk about work, Carrie would always just sit there and let everybody else share opinions, and this is what I would do. But we knew if Carrie was speaking, it was going to be to educate, and that was it. So you couldn't even ask her for the advice. But other people in the group would give theirs. And she'd laugh and think, she might shoot the messenger. So there was a really beautiful way that she even coached each of them eventually to step away from giving an opinion and sharing a story instead. And saying, well, I could tell you my experience, but that doesn't mean you have to do what I do. But I'd be willing to share my story and what I learned. Mm-hmm. So she says, Carrie has been an amazing mom to everybody, and she continues to be. And it is her goal to continue that role. But she's also now noticing that other people in the group and partners are developing some of the very same skills because she's teaching them. And she's understanding now that she can kind of sit back a little bit more because others are stepping into that role and they're doing the same teachings that Carrie used to do. And she's just as proud as can be. She doesn't feel that she's being replaced. She's looking at everybody like, oh, okay, this is good. This is where I'm supposed to be. This was the goal. I wasn't supposed to be in this position of teaching or holding this position in this group forever. And she says, I just want to point that out because it means that every other person is stepping up. So then she says, the women in this group meet once a month outside of the family things that they do as a group of friends. And it's just the women. And she says each one of them takes turn to be leader of the group for that month. And you're allowed to do anything you want to be leader of that month. And so she says, I want them to know that I still come to that group and that I'm still part of it. And she says, that's why I'm telling you. I just want them to hear that I'm still showing up. And she says, I'm showing up because I want to continue to see what kind of unique things they bring to the group. Because sometimes it'll be a recipe. Sometimes it'll be a game or an activity. Sometimes it's sharing something that they've learned. Sometimes they're they bring a problem to the group and they listen to everything that everybody else is sharing. She says, so sometimes like it's super lighthearted and sometimes it's really challenging stuff, but it changes and it goes through like a cycle, like each one of them knows when they're going to be in the group. And she says, I just want them to know that I'm still participating. But here's the deal. I also understand since I've passed away that several of them are using their own intuitive gifts trying to connect to me. And I said, connect to you? Like how? And I asked her, I said, do you mean like a Ouija board? Do you mean like they're doing something like that? And she said, no, I didn't mean anything like that. She said, I can say that a couple of them are just trying to use their own intuition. And she said, and a couple of them are trying to use signs. And I said, okay, do you mean signs like 1111? And she goes, exactly numbers. And she goes, and then, but another person in the group isn't doing the numbers. They're trying to do other things like, I think she said something like butterflies or like something else. I don't remember. I didn't write that one down, but she goes, I want to acknowledge that they're trying to connect to me. And I'm trying to say that I'm hearing them and that I'm trying to give them their signs. And she says, you need to tell the people that are asking me about signs that they have to stay with one sign more than just one damn month, she says, because by the time I figure out how to actually get into that butterfly, get them the butterfly, it might be winter, and then I have to do it over technology or on somebody's t-shirt as opposed to one that's flying by. And she says, and then if they move on too quickly, then they move to the next thing. And if I finally get the butterfly to them, then they dismiss the butterfly message, and we've missed our connection. And that I have to go, oh my God, now they've moved on to, oh my God, let's say an elephant. Then I have to try and be the elephant, and then I have to try and be a feather falling, from a couch pillow. She says, I have to do something and I have to keep, my target keeps moving. And she says, I haven't been crossed over that long that I can do this that fast. She says, so could you tell them that they have to go a little more lightly and more gently on me? And I said, Zuri, I'd love to tell them that. Yeah. So I told the group, and some of the women in the group said to me, do you know which one of us is doing which? And I said, absolutely not. I said, she's not saying Carrie's doing this. You in the top right corner is doing that. And I said, she's just basically saying that a couple of them are doing this. Some of you are doing that. She's trying to address all of you for what you're doing. But overall, the message is that she cares about all of you and that she is trying and that she wants each of you to continue trying. This is good. And that each of you is supporting the other person in what you've chosen to do to try to connect to her. So the people with the intuitiveness are not being dismissive of the people that are trying to see a connection with her, maybe through the butterfly. They're not picking on each other or dismissing each other. They're all supporting each other. And she says, I just really want them to hear that message because they're trying to connect and I appreciate it and I'm doing it back. So that message was said. And then Zuri says to me, another big message I want to say is how inclusive they are, even though this is a group of women meeting, that the husbands are all equal in the group. And that there is no jealousy amongst these women about each other's marriages or partners. They don't see it in terms of jealousy. If somebody has a better relationship, they want to know why. They will say, what's working for you? What are you doing? What have you changed that has made you and Bob have a better relationship? What did you guys work on? What was the problem that you went through? I want to know. In case I have that same problem, or that tool can be used for something else that I'm going through with my own partner. So she said, I want to talk to them about the fact that they support each other as women. So I told this group of women that. And again, they came right back and were like, yes, and they'd have a little bit of a talk about it. And then Zuri would come back in again and say, hey, not everybody here is married. Some of these women are divorced and single, and some of them have never been married and have always been single. And I want to point out to those women that they've always been included in this group, and with the husbands, that they are like seen as the aunts of the group. They are seen as that they are part of raising the kids. So if we're not present, or even if we are present, but one of the single women here steps into the role of parenting and says something to one of the kids and says, nope, you're not allowed to eat that, or nope, you're not allowed to do that, or hey, buddy, that's not how we treat people. Use your words, don't push. Everybody supports the single person like, yep, tell them. It's not seen that you're single and you don't know how to parent. They're seen as equals in the group and are truly appreciated for it. So when Mom's Day comes and the family gets together, the people in the group put money together and acknowledge the women in the group that are single, but they do the same things for the dads on Father's Day. So they don't all sit there on Mother's Day and say, well, these are the biological mothers, so we acknowledge them today, and we acknowledge the biological fathers. They don't treat them like that. It's Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day for all the women. It's Father's Day. Same thing. It's for all of them as dads. And the kids in this group called the family treat those single people with the same amount of respect and consideration. Oh, I just love that. Mm-hmm. This is why this group in particular made this show.
Yeah.
And Zuri's last message to the group, because this was a half-hour booking, was a big thank you for that period of time when she got diagnosed till her death. And she said that this entire group, not just the group of women, but their spouses and their kids, came to her family's help. And so some of these other children would come over and babysit her kids in her house and put them to bed so that her husband could stay with her while the kids were in the house and still knew their parents were together. She said that this group figured out their needs without always having to be told what the needs were. Mm-hmm. They thought, okay, if that was my wife going through this, what would I want right now? Well, I'd want to stay home with my wife. So I would want some of my friends just to drop by and pick the kids up and take them to their sporting events or their hobbies or the school luncheon or whatever. And at the school luncheon, if I can't be there with my wife, I would want them to go up with my kids and bring them up with their kids and make them part of their family. Mm-hmm. So she was saying to this group, I know what you did when I was laying in my bed, and I cannot thank you enough so that I had time to be with the person that I love. Mm-hmm. And that you gave me this security to know that my children were still being parented. You gave me the security to die peacefully and to move on with my soul because you were caring for my family's needs. Mm-hmm. Because my family's needs are my needs. And she said, and oh my God, there was not a dry eye. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, I didn't have dry eyes either.
I believe you.
And here's Zuri saying to all of these people, please go home and thank your partners. Please go home and thank your children. Because your children really learned huge lessons about stepping in and caring for other people at very young ages. And that caring could simply mean, I'm coming over to play with you. Mm-hmm. I'm coming over to watch TV with you. I'm going to come over and do homework with you. Or whatever it could be. Wait for you to go to bed, and then I'm going to go home with my parents.
Yeah.
Right? So she was just saying, please give all of my thanks to every single person for every single thing. Oh, Kelly, I almost forgot this. She commented about that some of the families brought their dogs. And they didn't have a dog. So, and that was validated. But she said there were dogs in the house. And some of these ladies were like, yep, our dogs. Because we would bring our dogs over with our kids. Mm-hmm. And she said that she absolutely loved that because she knew that her kids were being cared for by these other pets. And she said that sometimes that some of these dogs would come and sit on her bed and lay beside her.
Cute.
So she was grateful for all of these beautiful considerations of the things that they needed to be physically met and emotionally met. And I just thought, this is the best Christmas show I could think of.
Beautiful. Thank you. You nailed it.
Did I?
Yes. And Merry Christmas to all the listeners.
Thanks for listening to Coffee with the Sarlos. If you enjoyed the show today, help spread the love with a like, share, or review of the podcast. See you next Saturday with a brand new episode.